Every once in a while, I'll go to review a book and I just am a little bit of a loss at how to approach it. And I'm running into that with They Both Die at the End by Adam Silvera. This is a much beloved book. I can 100% understand why people love this book. I didn't end up loving it as much as most people. And I think part of it is if I had read this book when I was the primary age range that this book is targeted to, when I was a young adult, it would have blown my mind. I would have loved to have had this book when I was a gay teen. I love that this book exists. I think for what it is, it's exceptionally well done in a lot of ways. But as me right now, I just had some issues with it. And I think it really kind of speaks to where we're at right now with books and just sort of my own personal taste not necessarily always aligning to it. So let's go ahead and get into it. They Both Die at the End concerns Rufus and Mateo, who have been told that they are going to die by Deathcast, this mysterious technology that's never really explained in this sort of alternate reality 2017 where your death can be foretold and you are told that you will die within 24 hours. And there's all kinds of things set up to help people. There is an app called Last Friend, and that's actually how Rufus and Mateo meet. They are two very different people, not so simple as an extrovert and an introvert, but it follows along similar lines. And the way it unfolds is a little bit like the Ethan Hawke, Julie Delpy movie Before Sunrise. If you've never seen that, it's a little bit like that, where it's just a lot of kind of wandering around and talking to each other. And of course, in that movie, they're not both doomed to die. But it has a similar feel to me. I think the concept is really interesting, and I think it's explored in interesting ways, the way that Deathcast has affected the society around them, the way it's affected the way people die or live their life. Most of that stuff is just sort of set dressing though, and we're really focusing on Rufus and Mateo and the way that they sort of evolve from the people that they started out the story as to who they are at the end. Now I want to be clear, if I were to give this a star rating, it would be 3 stars. I enjoyed this book. I'm glad I read it. I'll read the next book because I'm intrigued to see what happens in it, what's actually involved in it. But there were some issues I had with this, and a lot of it is that when you're focusing on two people and the conversations that they're having, I need those conversations to be really interesting, and I just wasn't really that caught up in what they were saying. And I think part of that is because some of this book feels a little didactic, and I feel like this is sort of an overall shift in style, where books are becoming much more obvious and a little more didactic, where they're just stating things very plainly, like the things that you're supposed to take away from the book. And I just don't like that kind of writing. I like writing that's a little more subtle. I think there's places for just directly stating stuff, but I don't know, more and more, I just get the sense of just being kind of spoon-fed a story rather than allowing the story to unfold and for me to make the connections and to understand what is the theme and all that kind of stuff. I really don't love it when writers just have their characters come out and say stuff, because then it can feel a little bit like I'm just reading about two mouthpieces that are, having a discussion from the writer's head. I do think the message here about living life to your fullest and all that kind of stuff is fantastic. And there is more complexity than just that to it. But like I said, I really kind of hit that wall of the sort of obviousness of it all. And I've seen a lot in YA, and I think if you're going to have it anywhere, maybe that's a good place to have it. But it doesn't really feed into what I enjoy the most. I did think the ending was very emotionally effective. It was very well done. I really, really enjoyed it. And that's part of why I like this book so much, because even though on the journey I wasn't necessarily hooked, by the time the end rolled around, I really was invested in Mateo and Rufus and their relationship. And I was, of course, sort of that weird sort of sense of just kind of waiting to see how it unfolds. Like, how is this going to happen? Because it's been hanging over their heads the entire time.